This is Joe Wilson, resident of Minnesota for many years, and presently living and has been living since the 1930s near Pike Lake, next to Pike Lake Resort in Minnesota.
There's the Elbow Lake area here.
Yeah, this is, Joe says this is the Elbow Lake area. Joe commonly goes by the name of Buck. Buck lives here in this home with his wife and his son and his daughter-in-law and his granddaughter. Across the driveway from his house is his shop. Joe is a steel saw representative, sales and service representative, and is actively engaged in that business at the present time and has been for nearly 20 years now. This is Joe in his shop. I see you have your dog Rex there with you, keeping you company.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about when you first came here, what year it was, and why you came to this part of the country?
I came up here in 1934 in this area with a sawmill. And it was pretty wild country at the time. The roads, practically no roads, just trails through the woods. I set first over by Bad Medicine Lake, then I was up by Lost Long, and then moved over to the west side of Big Elbow Lake all the same year, the first year.
That was in 1934.
34. And then I moved over here on the east side of Elbow in 1936. I've been here ever since.
I see. Now, how old were you when you first came here in 34?
32.
32. So you would have been born in 1902 then?
1901.
1901.
Yeah, I was. I was almost 33 when I come up here, but not quite.
So as we talk in August of 1986, you would be how old? 80?
August of what?
Today, how old are you today?
84.
84.
Yeah.
I see.
I'll be 85 in November.
And you're still in business as a steel representative?
Yes.
How long have you been doing that?
20 years.
20 years. Now, where did you come from, Buck?
Well, I lived down in Bedora Township, down near where the Bedora Nursery is now. And they were just starting that up at the time that I left here. And then I went up, I had the mill at Guthrie a little while in 34. I moved from Guthrie here when I moved here.
How did you come by the nickname of Buck?
I don't know. I've had that nickname ever since I could remember.
Ever since you were a child?
Huh?
Ever since you were a kid?
Yeah.
I see. Is that what most people call you?
Mostly, pretty much everybody calls me Buck, yes.
Okay. Maybe we should go over and take a look at some of the sites around Long Lost Lake, and you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yes.
We're at the site of the chimney just south of Long Lost Lake near County Road 39. Buck, what is this place here? What was it used for back when you first came here?
Originally, it was the office of the Nichols and Chisholm headquarters office when they was logging back here in, well, back in the 1800s they started. When I come up here, there was a transient camp. They, government had people, transients, they, to get them all together, they had these camps, and they had a bunch of them in here.
Now this wasn't a CCC camp then,
no,
right?
No, this wasn't CC. This was just known as a transient camp.
I see.
And they had put the men to work, some of them that could work, they put them to doing a few things. They made a little money that way. They had a bunch of cattle in here. They had some of them a job of herding cattle. Some of them was working cutting wood, firewood for their place for the winter time to keep warm. And I guess they did maybe raise a little garden stuff in here. I'm not sure.
Now, when would this have been, Buck?
In 1934.
Mm-hmm. And did
started in 34 and 35. 36, 35 they moved the transient camp over to Elbow Lake, Big Elbow Lake, where the CC camp had been before that.
I see.
And, since then, this was, there was some farming done on this open right in here. It was all open during the war. And then there was a guy from Fargo had, one summer had a bunch of sheep in here, raised a bunch of sheep in here and herded them in here one summer. That, I think, if I remember right, was about 1940, about 44, I think it was.
And how long did the building stand?
Well, I don't know just when it did burn. It burned since then. I couldn't say what year. I don't know. The building was standing a little while since then.
Okay, so a little bit after the war, then it probably burned down.
Probably the building burned somewhere in, and there was other buildings around here too. Burnt probably sometime in the late 40s or early 50s, or maybe even later. I wouldn't say for sure. I think it was in the 50s sometime when it burned.
And what kind of building was this here?
This one here, a particular building right here, was a log building.
One room?
No, I think there was more than one. It was more or less an office building to start with, and they had a storeroom, stored stuff in there for supplies. When they had the transient camp in there, they kept their supplies in there, and their officers, the superintendent, lived in that.
And there were other buildings then for the men?
Yes, there was other buildings. I don't remember, just never paid much attention. I think they was just built up framework buildings. Mm-hmm. But if I remember it right, I never paid too much attention to what it was.
And did you actually do any milling or logging in this immediate area?
Oh yes, I had the sawmill up about 1.5 miles north of here.
On the east side of the lake?
On the west side of the lake.
On the west side of the lake?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And just this side of the big hill, or just over the big hill there. Mm-hmm. Just west of the south end of the lake.
Okay, just a little north of where the Indian Road goes out onto the peninsula.
Yes. And then I logged since then.
Excuse me, Buck, when was it that you had your mill over in that area?
In 1934.
Can you tell us what the timber was like in the area at that time?
It was, most of the timber had been logged off, but this was a patch that was left, 40 acres that was left around a little lake was over, and there it was all nice, tall Norway, straight Norway timber.
Pretty good size stuff.
Fair size. Run up to about 16, 18 inch on the stump.
And most of the other had been logged off, you said. Was that logged off quite a bit earlier?
Yes, when Nichols and Chisholm was in here.
And they're the ones that had the railroad as well?
Yes.
Can you explain where that railroad went and how that operated?
Well, from here it went down to the south end of Elbow Lake. They dumped the logs into Elbow Lake.
It followed, the rail actually followed the McKenzie Lake Road then, on that road.
The part way, it didn't go up any farther than right about in here. The railroad from here, where we turned in here, the railroad over a little ways, it left and went over to the south end of the lake in there. Didn't go up on the McKenzie Lake Road any farther than just to the south end of the lake.
And they would haul the logs from Long Lost Lake over to Elbow Lake, is that right?
Yes. And they had other spurs. This railroad here run through, it actually went clear through the park and over, hooked up over near Akeley. The Red River Lumber Company had the railroad run up, clear up to, joined onto this one.
I see. Okay. Now, tell us about the lake and the name of the lake. Now, what did you know the lake by when you first came into this area?
Long Lake is mostly what I heard it called by, and then I heard other people know it as Lost Lake, and pretty soon they just called it Lost Long.
Lost Long, and somewhere along the line they turned the two words around. Now it's Long Lost to most of the people in this area.
Yeah.
So it's really had several different names then.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe we could go to another spot over closer to the lake and talk some more. Now we're standing in an area just north, just a short distance north of the Indian Road that goes out onto the peninsula. That's looking down south into the area that was logged off in 1985. And Buck, you had your mill operation in this area in 1934, is that right?
Yes.
Can you show us where that was and tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it was about 6 weeks I had the sawmill back on this trail back in here, about a quarter of a mile, a little lake back in there, and the timber was nice Norway all around the lake. And I had just what was on 40 acres there. There wasn't a very big amount of timber, but it was nice timber what there was. And I logged that and moved from there over to Elbow Lake.
And when you milled it, you cut it into dimension lumber?
Yes.
And you had a steam
engine, yes.
Steam engine.
We hauled water from the lake down here
from Long Lost
to the
Lake
mill for the boiler. We couldn't get a well in there to furnish water for the engine. I tried to get a well, but we couldn't get water.
And so you went down into Long Lost Lake and got your water?
Yes.
I see. You do that by truck, or how did you?
Truck, yes. We had a truck, had a water tank on a truck.
Mm-hmm. Did you actually live up in this area then?
Yes.
In what kind of facility did you live in?
Just